Hello, and welcome to another episode of Inside Marine. This week, I'm chatting to the CEO of Barton Marine, Suzanne Blaustone. Hi there, Suzanne.
Hello. Hi, James. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to chat with you, and I'm humbled by the opportunity because I know some of the people you've interviewed in the past. So thank you for including me in your group of very well-known, prestigious people in the industry.
Well, I think it's fair to say that the absolutely honor is ours. We just had a chat just before we started recording that we are only days away from Mets and by far your sort of very most important show of the year, and so to get some of your time right now is absolutely brilliant. And and I'm sure we'll cover Mets and what's happening in the business right now, but to start with, we really like to go right back to the beginning with our guests. And I'd love to hear a bit more about why and how you joined the marine industry.
My story is probably different than most. I listened to people who are in the industry and they loved everything about marine, whether it was boating or fishing or water toys or canoeing or kayaking or whatever they did. They were passionate sailors and boaters all their lives. But I grew up in California, so I grew up on the beaches, loving everything about the ocean and marine. But I got into the industry really because I fell in love with a man who was the owner of Barton Marine. And we had a long distance romance across the Atlantic for four or 5 or 6 years. And I finally said, okay, I'm done. Either we get this together or we can't keep doing this across the Atlantic. And that was back in the late 80s and 90s. So it was a difficult thing to have a relationship without texting and, mobile phones. And so he finally said, great, come on over. It was easier to move me than a company. So I moved over, and that was in 1997. And the very first night that I moved here, instead of having kind of a nice, cozy dinner between the two of us, I was taken to the Marine Trades Association dinner. I went to the MTA dinner the very first night I moved to the UK. So that was my initiation into the marine industry. And then, of course, everything from there was always about the marine industry in our home and our dinner table discussions. And I watched Barton under David Coleman move forward, and grow and expand. And then sadly, David died in 2014. And I had a choice of either staying in the industry and maintaining the company that I was so proud of and the legacy of Barton Marine. And the decision was to keep the company and move it forward. So that's how I got into it. My background was in manufacturing, so I felt that I had the capability to do it. I just needed the confidence. But my background was in the steel industry and in the chemical coatings business. So I was able to use all of those insights and experiences and skills and take them forward for Barton Marine as well. Great.
Well, I mean, what an introduction to the marine industry, the MTA dinner. I mean, it doesn't get, social events and a great bunch of people don't get much better than that as a welcome intro. But obviously, a very difficult time to take the decision of leading the business. And, I would love to just hear a bit about how you approach that. Obviously you'd made this decision under very difficult circumstances, and you'd come in, straight in, as CEO. From your perspective, what was the sort of leadership challenges with that, and what was the priorities for you in that time sort of for the business?
Well, I'll be very honest. It was a very tough time. I think that, David had been kind of an icon in the industry. He'd been on every committee of British Marine. He was on the board of directors for 25 years. So the staff here really loved David. And I think to have someone come in and position themselves as the CEO of the company who they had never worked for before and really didn't know me that well. I think it was a very difficult time for the staff. And there were people here who decided not to stay and move on to other opportunities. And it was very difficult. It's not an easy thing when there's a new change in ownership. And that was true at Barton too, but we pulled together and pushed forward with new team members as we had to. And we have, 8-9 years later, we have a very connected, very close knit, we just have an excellent team, but it took time to get there, and I had to be trained, and I think it's hard to train your boss, but I didn't know enough about the workings of the manufacturing facility here and our finance operations and our R&D programs. So it's very hard to train your boss and to then still feel that the company is moving forward as fast as it should. But that was just something that had to take place. So we did that, and I think we've gone from strength to strength. And I'm really proud. I'm proud to be a member of this team, and I'm proud to lead it. And a lot had to happen. David had been sick for a decade, so a lot happens when you're sick for a decade. You quit reinvesting in the company. You don't refurbish tools as fast as you should, perhaps. So a lot of that had gone undone. So we needed to start at the beginning, and it wasn't easy. We had to refurbish our tools. We had to look at buying new equipment, right, pretty much from the start. And we had to make new procedures that were comfortable for me. We had to put more money in marketing because no one knew me. And they needed to feel confident and comfortable that Barton Marine was still going to be the company it was without David's leadership. So it was a trying time. And I'm just so proud that we got through it and we moved on and have gone from strength to strength since.
I mean, without doubt, Barton is a globally recognized brand and business, and as are you, and the success story over the years is one that everybody knows about. And obviously those first, I'm sure, months and years, with a lot of the changes you had to implement and the reinvestment and really the kind of the sort of the backstory there, is such an amazing journey you've been on. I'd love to just know, what are some of the key lessons, I suppose, that you've learned over the last few years since you took over Barton?
I think the most important lesson I've learned is that you need to surround yourself with the very best talent, the very best people, the knowledge that you don't have yourself. You can bring that in and create a team of people that can work well together. And I think for me, the greatest lesson to learn was not to expect to know it all, not to expect to do it all, but to hire the best people and keep them close and create a feeling in the company where people can come and talk about the successes or our failures or our needs and requirements and put them together in a conducive way that allows you to take the company forward. I was raised in a family where my parents always said, the only failure is not to try. So I kind of believe that. And, I just push my people forward and say, let's do the best we can in every way. And, we'll always try. We'll always push forward.
I absolutely love that as a kind of a mantra. The only failure is not to try. And I think I might take that one, Suzanne, if that's okay.
Of course.
So look, some fantastic lessons there, and I think we see that a lot in kind of really great business leaders. They talk a lot about the importance of having the right people around them, and but also not trying to sort of expect to know it all and be comfortable with that, and that's sometimes a bit of a challenge, right?
It is. It's very uncomfortable sometimes, and you have to balance out conduct and capability. Sometimes someone's capabilities are so valuable that you have to just overlook some of the other issues that person could bring to the workforce and say, well, that's, we're all different. That's who he or she is. And, we got to work with that. So I try and balance that a lot, James, focusing on the capability and the value and the skills. And, if someone, forgets to, fill up the coffee pot, that's not such a big deal.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know. Although the coffee pot here is a pretty important piece of equipment.
Never go anywhere without it.
So, of course, and in more recent years, just kind of staying in the past a little bit. You as a prominent British manufacturer have had other challenges as well. In the form of Brexit, and then of course COVID, but certainly, just looking at the Brexit side of things, how is the dust settling? I suppose now we're a few years past that now, and maybe are you settling into the new ways of doing things? Is there still challenges there, and how much does that affect the business and some of the decisions that you make?
Brexit is a four-letter word to me. I think it's the worst decision that the UK has ever adopted. And I was on Panorama. They came here and filmed here at Barton Marine, and I was very vocal about it, and we continue to be very vocal about it. Once that decision was made in the referendum, we had to embrace whatever came along, but I remain staunchly against it. I don't even know what sovereignty is in a digital age. I don't know what that means, but that's what the voters wanted at that time. And so we had to move forward. Barton Marine was probably one of the few companies that put out what we called our Brexit brief in 2017. And we put that brief out and said, this is what we'll do now that Brexit has been determined. We'll put out this brief, and it was a report we gave out. We actually, I think, gave it out in 2018 at METS to all of our distributors and let people know what our plan was going to be, that we were preparing. And, that included everything from having training and dispatch to, with the paperwork and what was going to be involved. I did not want to pay for outside people to come in and train us. I wanted our people to take it on board and take ownership of the problems and the issues and learn them. So we did a lot of webinars, and we did everything we could. We got some help from British Marine. We got help from outside agencies, and we did everything we could to prepare for Brexit in advance, including we set up the opportunity to open up another office and another warehouse in Belgium, so that if we needed to, we could ship to that location, hold stock there, and ship to Europe from there, because we had absolutely no idea what was going to happen with the final Brexit plan. And I think the problem that we see today, James, is that the instability in the UK governance and the instability of those decisions for Brexit are still in flux. Under Liz Truss, we were told that she could invoke Article 16 again, which would have thrown the whole Brexit program out that we had prepared for. And, we still have that instability. I'm not convinced that, going through 3 governments in a year has helped our Brexit program smooth out with our European customers. And 60% of our business goes to Europe. So we have to be very involved in every new issue that comes along for Brexit, and always be prepared to support our customers. Come what may, we want to support our customers. And we've had to take, the decision to cut margins sometimes, or to help and assist with tariff issues and assist in shipping issues and freight issues that we would have never gotten involved with before. But we'll do whatever we have to do. But if we could have a little stability in government, it would be very helpful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. It just seems to be sort of, and I have this from, a lot of people we talk to on the podcast or just some of our clients in general, just that, frustration that it just still doesn't feel actually that settled. And that's of course a challenge when you're just trying to get on with your business and trade and distribute. And that's
the problem, James. People used to have a 5-year plan or a 2-year plan. I kind of have a 2-day plan. It's like, who's in the office today? Who's in the office of Prime Minister today? And where do we go from here? So we would ask for a little bit more stability in government would be very helpful. And we've gone through this treadmill recently with these new prime ministers. Under Liz Truss, we were told that our corporate tax rate would stay at 19. Under Richie Sunak, a few weeks later, we were saying, oh no, it's going to go up to 25. Well, I started making some different decisions at 19% that I wouldn't have made it at 25.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
If someone in Whitehall sneezes, we get a cold over here. So we have to be very careful that we are following the political issues closely. And, and it's worldwide. It's not just the UK, it's worldwide. So we have to watch it all now.
Yeah. And it certainly feels like, there's many more chapters to come, isn't there, unfortunately? But I'm interested to, you said something really relevant then, is that actually it's just really hard to make any sort of long-term plan in business right now. And actually I do think that a lot of business owners find that quite disconcerting that they can't, and actually almost feeling like they're failing that they can't. But I mean, what advice do you give to somebody in very uncertain times like this? What can they focus on, and what are you focusing on when you're not sure about some of the other areas that you can't?
Okay, I think free advice is what it's worth, but I would tell people, number one, perseverance. You've just got to persevere, and you've got to focus on what's important and what the mission is of your company. Our mission is always to innovate. We have to keep innovating. Our mission is to always provide the best quality product, engineered properly and designed properly and produced properly, and then get it out the door, with a good lead time, and get it out to the door to our customers. So we focus on those activities. We focus on customer service. We have an amazing sales manager and customer service manager here, and they are very focused on always knowing where the customer's mindset is, so that we can respond to their needs as much as our own. The other thing that I would say is, based on the supply chain issues that we've seen that have been the most horrendous in my whole experience, and I'm sure everybody would agree, my whole experience of being in manufacturing, no one would have ever believed the supply chain issues we've seen the last year. So I would say stock up. As scary as that is, we have bought a year's supply of materials here in stainless steel, aluminum, and in our plastics. We have call-off programs that we've negotiated, and we've worked so hard to have supply. If we can make stuff, our customers are feeling safer, and they feel that the service is there. So I can't wait for someone to sell me some stainless steel 2 months from now. I have to have it in-house. So we've had to do a lot of purchasing that would normally have not been the way forward. But I think I would tell anyone in the business now, stock up. If you have product, raw materials, and you can make something, you're going to be ahead of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, great advice, of course. And I think that, what I felt I heard there was, actually, when it's really uncertain, just really kind of almost double down on the stuff that you are in control of. You talked about your level of service. You talked about the people in the business being being quite resilient, focusing on the things that actually you have absolute control on. And I think that's really great advice in a very distracting time, I suppose, as well. Yeah,
it's been. I think you probably heard me say it before, James. I think that we cannot be business managers at this time. We're crisis managers, and I think that we've had crisis management now for 3 years that we never expected. So we have to be flexible. We have to be very strong, and we have to take risks. And some of those risks have paid off for us. We've been able to produce when other people were waiting for raw materials for those reasons. But it's just an unprecedented time, and you have to kind of be ready for the next crisis. Who would have thought in this day and age we would be entering a war that would, this war that this heinous war that none of us expected or felt would affect us as much as it has. Who would have thought that war then would have affected our energy costs and pricing the way it has? And now they're even talking about the possibility of brownouts in some places. Well, if you tell a manufacturer they could have a brownout or a blackout for a period of time, again, crisis management comes into play. We've had to put in generators here, never expected to have to do that. We have had to have long negotiations with our energy company to get pricing, to get our price increase reduced to 97% instead of 283%, which they hit us with originally. So we've had to pull out all the stops and move forward in a different management style than would ever have happened in the past.
Yeah, I mean, certainly crazy times, and as I said, more chapters to come. But I mean, this brings us on really nicely to the kind of the very, very present day, and I'd love to hear a bit more about what's happening with the business right now. We got Mets around the corner. I see a lot of action from Barton in the press, new people, new products, maybe that sort of thing. Tell us more about what's happening.
Well, we have a mission here that, and we've decided that if you don't innovate, you die. So we are innovating. So we spend an awful lot of time. In fact, my other production team is currently in an R&D meeting, looking at R&D projects. We are customer-led, market-led. We ask our distributors to feed information to us for R&D and what we can do to create new products and improve our products for the marketplace worldwide. We are preparing for a very rocky road ahead. We don't know what 2023 holds because the last 3 years have been so astoundingly different than anything that we could have prepared for. So along with focusing on all those missions that we have at Barton, we've also decided that we can't sit still and not increase our workforce. So at kind of a scary time and not knowing what is expected around the corner, we have brought in 2 officers in the company to help us. We're a lean team anyway, so we needed those officers to come in and help us. So we've hired a gentleman by the name of Jeff Weber, who was managing director at Davie Marine, and he's come to work for us, to work with me on an officer level to help in every aspect of the business and help me make better decisions and insightful decisions. We also have a little bit of an older workforce here. There's quite a few of us in our 60s. And so we needed to hire younger sailors who could come in and work with us and make sure that we were up to date and make sure as we get more tired, they're picking up the ball and running with it. So it's great to have Jeff on board with us. We also made the decision during COVID 2 years ago to expand our operations in the United States. So we opened our own company in the United States. It's called Barton US LLC. We contracted with some agents there. And this year, rather than stand still, we've got some excellent growth in the United States and some excellent momentum there now. And so what we decided to do was hire our own man on the ground. So I've hired a man named John Navarro, whose background was with CWR, which is a big U.S. distributor to about 3,000 marine shops and chandleries in the United States. And he's come on board as our chief operating officer. So he will handle all of the operations and the sales and the decision making for promotion in the United States now for us as an employee. So we're excited about that. So I think in times like this, you have to keep growing, and it can be scary. But you of all people, James, know that you have to bring in good talent, and you have to have. And if that opportunity comes before you, you better grab it, because you could lose that person and end up with a hole in your mission to expand and create X. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, and it's a great, it's great to see just the business kind of moving with such great energy and having such a focus on people and, all the other sort of slightly negative stuff that we talked about that's out of our control, that actually, absolutely charging on ahead with the stuff that is. And, so it's absolutely right. I'm interested, Suzanne, to just take it a bit wider to the sort of the more broader marine industry at the moment. I mean, how do you see the current state of the marine industry?
Well, we make deck gear for sailing yachts. So from my perspective, I think we've seen exponential growth in the marine industry over the last few years. And I think our job as leaders in this, niche market of leisure marine, our focus has to be on maintaining those people that have come into the boating community and the sailing community. I think during COVID, a lot of people went out and, bought bicycles that haven't been out of the garage now for a year. So we have to make sure that doesn't happen with boats. People who have become excited about getting out on the water in any way at all, or, getting into sailing and taking training courses and learning about boating and learning about the marine experience. I think our job now is to keep those people in. And I would say that that's probably the focus that has to be the focus of many of our leaders in the marine industry. I think the industry is going to go through a bit of a change over the next year or two, because those banner years are not necessarily expected to continue. We hope they do, but if not, then we need to press forward and realize that we are going to have a new normal now, and find out what those new normals are with the people who are involved in marine products and who are involved in the marine experience. So we need boat shows. We need events to excite people. We need to stay very positive. And that's what I see the marine industry at large doing, is to stay positive, to work through the problems that we see and find solutions. And that, that's very evident in our, so many people are dedicated to try and finding ways of wasting out old materials in a recyclable way, in an environmentally friendly way. That's the things we have to do to keep the industry moving forward, along with maintaining the excitement and the thrill of being part of that boating community.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen such a big influx of new boaters, like you said, and new water sports enthusiasts. And we talk a lot about, the importance of keeping them engaged, so they don't get interested in the next thing, right? I've spoken a bit about like how, is the industry doing enough that you see to really focus and really keep these new customers engaged, that, in your opinion?
Yes. And I think that's happening because the innovation I see is making it easier to be in boating and to be in marine activities. There's, everything we do now, we start at user-friendly and work our way toward the product that we want to create. Because a lot of people are new to the industry and they haven't had those years of learning how to tie knots properly or learning how to understand the electronics on a boat. So anything that we can do and innovate to make marine easier and more user-friendly, and anything we can do to help train people, if we can offer services that help train people on how to use products properly and maintain them properly, I think all of that is a benefit that we can move towards to keeping those new boaters active and involved in the industry. And again, I can't say it enough. We need to maintain the stir and excitement of being part of it. So we need events. We have to have the boat shows. We have to have that experience of bringing, and affordable boat shows, let me say, so that we keep it, we're able to bring the kids and have them all grow up in that environment. I know that at Barton, one of the things we do, most of the focus we have when we do promotions is for kids. We want kids to get into sailing and boating, and they'll be there long after I'm gone, but we need to get those kids excited about being in boating now, give them some training in sailing lessons, because nothing builds the confidence of a child better than to be out on a boat and know that they're safe and know they can take care of themselves with their team or on their own in a little Pico. So anything we can do to promote kids on the water is what we're doing. We work with the RYA on that. We've done some huge paddle boards for the RYA so they can get kids on the water safely so that they get used to being wet and on the water, and then they move them into boats from there. So we're doing everything we can to try and explore that market of how we can get kids on the water. And our new man in America, John, is going to focus on training programs, the university programs for sailing. He's going to be focusing on the yacht club sailing training programs to try and make sure that Barton is known as someone who wants to get people on the water and excited about it. So that's kind of what we all need to do, is keep that happening.
Absolutely, yeah, and he sounds like he's going to be a busy man. Yes. I think you're absolutely right with, and certainly what you're saying about about the kids, giving them those skills and those experiences really, really early on. And I think sometimes as sort of sailors and water sports enthusiasts, if you've done it for a long time, you almost take for granted a little bit like how incredible and what that gives kids to be able to do. And I remember I had a meeting not so long ago with somebody. We were near my local sailing club. My son was actually out doing some sailing in his little Optimist dinghy, and he was 9 at the time. And the person I was talking to just could not believe that my 9-year-old son was out in Southampton water, kind of on his own. And that really kind of sort of hit home that how much I kind of just took that for granted as the norm. And how do we promote that as such an amazing thing to attract more and more people to industry is really key.
We supported a program at Leamington Yacht Club for children that had no opportunity to get into sailing or boating at all. And Leamington Yacht Club has this program where they bring kids in, and they, they charge them £1 a day to come in for training or something like that. And what was remarkable to me, and it even choked me up, is when I went to see that program, these children were having so much fun and they were not scared anymore and they were getting out on the water, but it was their parents who were watching from the shore, and they were so excited that their kids had the opportunity. So we were proud to be part of that Leamington program. And just to know that those families now have children who might just get the bug and stay in marine and stay in boating maybe the rest of their lives. So that's what we hope for.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, Suzanne, you're clearly extremely passionate about the business. You're clearly extremely passionate about the kind of legacy and the next generation of marine industry people and people entering the sport. But something else I know that you're also incredibly passionate about is giving is diversity in the industry and giving women in the industry as much opportunity as possible. And tell us a bit more about the work you do on that side. And I know that there's a certain quite big event coming up.
When I entered the industry in 2014, I would say 90% of David's colleagues in the marine industry told me that I could not run Barton Marine, that I didn't have the ability and that I should sell and walk away. And that affected my confidence level. I thought, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't. And I was very lucky. Fiona Pankhurst was president or immediate past president at that time of British Marine and was having an event for women at the Southampton Boat Show. And right at that time, within months of taking over the company, I went to that event. And it boosted my confidence so much. I met women in the industry. They weren't all men. There are a lot of women in the industry. And I met them, and it built my confidence up to being able to say, if these women can find a place here and can, and are doing as well as I could tell they were doing, it gave me the springboard I needed to go back immediately and say, okay, I'm staying. We're going to do this. We're taking the company forward. And I want every woman to have that experience. I want every woman to feel that they're not alone and that there's a male bias in the industry that's going to create a ceiling for them. Our experience is that is the case in some companies, and it is the case in the industry perhaps as a whole. So we always just want to give women that experience I had. Have an event where people can meet each other, women can meet each other, have a networking event, bring in a speaker who can talk about their experience and how their career went forward. And so we've done that since 2014, and Barton has supported those. And I am passionate about it because that's what helped me. And I figure, I'm not the lone stranger out there. I figure there's other women who need that boost and need to meet each other. And I can tell you the colleagues I have met through the women events many of them have become very close friends. And I would never give, I would have never had that opportunity had these events not continued. So the event that's coming up that you mentioned is the very first Women in Marine Industry METS event is happening on Wednesday morning, the second morning of METS, and it's a continental breakfast, and we brought speakers in from all over the world, so it's an international event. And so it's going to be a panel discussion. It's only an hour and a half, but it's already sold out. It sold out in about 2 weeks when we announced it. And I think that goes to show that there's an interest and a need to continue with that opportunity for women to meet each other, network, have a cup of coffee together, and then go back to work. And as I always say to women, just focus on where you're going. Don't worry about where other people think you should be. Just focus on where you need to go. So, and we always invite men. Men can always come to our events. We're not against the men at all. We just want an opportunity to meet each other. And these opportunities exist at boat shows and trade shows like METS. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant to have the events and to be seeing the Women in Industry event becoming global at METS, which is clearly what it is, and to have champions like yourself in the industry is so important. I just want to go back to something you just said a second ago there. In that moment, that very, very difficult time for you to be having people in the industry suggesting that you shouldn't be taking over at Barton, potentially suggesting, if I understood you rightly, because you're a woman, in 2014 or 2016 or whenever it was. I mean, gosh, to that's not that long ago, and How much did that really kind of motivate you at the time once you had I suppose got past that initial kind of confidence knock? And how much does it still motivate you today? Actually, I'd love to understand that.
It's kind of a red rag to a bull. You can't do it. Okay, now watch me do it. I think it was distressing at the time. I really wanted the support of David's colleagues to help me and boost me forward. And many did. I mean, I had some of the best people, David Barrow, Andy Fitzgerald, Robert Underwood, some of his close friends who were very active in the marine industry still came forward and boosted my confidence to say, you can do this and we'll help you. We'll give you some insight. But there were many of his friends who just felt that I couldn't take on the business. And I'm not sure it was because I was a woman. I think it was because I wasn't in the marine industry. You know, I was at that time, I had my own company. I was selling chemical coatings to the automotive industry. So I was very active in the automotive industry, but they didn't see that as something that could transfer into this very niche market of marine. And I had to make it work. You know, I wanted the company to continue. I wanted the legacy of Barton Marine to stay strong. And so I didn't see that as a woman thing. I think I saw it as a situation where people say you just don't have the experience in the marine industry. But, you know, when you jump in on the deep side, you kind of get that experience pretty quick. Yeah. And since I had been in manufacturing all my life, or my working life, it made it a much easier transition to go from steel and paint and coatings, and then get into the manufacturer of deck gear that was made of steel and plastics and resins. I was in that business, so it made it easier for me that way. It's fascinating to hear you talk about that concept of the reason maybe that you couldn't have done something is because you weren't in the marine industry. And I think that's something that we experience quite a lot of marine resources, you know, when we're taking companies' hiring requirements, you know, very, very closed to considering people from outside of the industry. And I think it's probably got a bit better over recent years, but such an important time to be bringing good people into our industry, where the people, and certainly the challenges that are potentially coming to businesses, having really great people in the businesses, as you've talked about in this interview, and then relating that to kind of the importance of, as a new customers to the marine industry, making it as easy for them to get into boating. Do we still have some way to go as a marine industry of making it accessible as a career, in your mind, from that opinion of you've got to be in the marine industry already to be sort of successful in it? From my perspective, no. I mean, surely that's going to be an issue for some people, but if I can hire someone here that has the talent and the skills I need, and part of that skill for me would be, you'd have to at least be a sailor, you know, a really keen, good sailor. But if you've been selling cars, or you've been selling, you know, JCB equipment, and you want to get into selling Barton Marine products, and I know you're a good sailor, that would make all the difference to me in the world. So I think I can see transitions in employment like that being successful. I think that there is a learning curve for people outside the marine industry, because it's so different than anything else you'll ever know in your life. People who come into this industry never leave. You know, very few people leave the marine industry, or they try to, and then they come back. And they come back, yeah. Yeah, they miss it so much, because the camaraderie here is so great, and the and just, you know, the way that we work and partner with each other, different companies working and partnering with each other, and maneuvering events and product lines sometimes so that we can create more, more synergy in the industry. I think you don't see it anywhere else. We're competitive, but at the same time, we're good colleagues and we're good friends. And we end up sitting around the table later and having a drink together. And, we just move on in that circle. And you don't find it anywhere else. I've been in the steel industry. I've been in the chemical coatings industry. I've been in the resin industry. You don't see it other places. So I would say they're lucky to get in. Give them a chance and keep them. It's a good thing.
That's really, really fascinating insight, especially with so much experience outside of the industry. And I think that is a great pitch for the marine industry, and hopefully with the new water sports enthusiasts that we've seen, actually we can convert them to being our next employees and next marine industry professionals. So again, a huge opportunity now, I feel, of bringing in more people with other industry experience to teach us some stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. So what's the future hold, Suzanne? What's the next big thing for you guys? What's coming down the line?
Well, for Barton Marine, we're going to focus on the U.S. market. Barton has never we've always been in the U.S. market, but not in a strong way. So for Barton Marine, we have invested heavily and we are working very hard to create a much greater image and a much better sales program in the United States. I just got back from the US. I was there for the Annapolis Boat Show, and then I went on sales calls to customers and different suppliers there in our warehouse operation. I met my staff at the warehouse for the first time because of COVID. I couldn't go over. So it was great not to have to talk on Zoom. It was great to see the warehouse, not on Zoom, to see it in person and understand it. So that's really our focus right now, on moving into the United States in a stronger way. And that may include more agencies working with us. It's a big country. England would fit into one small state there. So it's a big country, and we have to have a good strategy of doing that and investment. So I'm willing to make that investment. And, I'm from California, I'm from the States. So, for me, it's kind of like going home and I'm kind of half and half, I've got both sides that I can bring together to make that happen. So that's really our strength that we're looking at now. And then, just as I always said, innovation. One of the things our customers have told me, our distributors say, one thing about Barton is you guys are always innovating. You're coming up with new products. You're asking us what new products you need to develop and how you could improve something that you're already manufacturing, and looking at new technologies to do that. And so I think that that's also what the future holds for us, just continuing on our mission to create new products that make boating easier, that make boating more fun, that make boating safer. And so that's probably what the future holds for us. I think, everywhere else, it's really, I just look at the investment that it takes to put a new boat on the water and to design and, troubleshoot all the problems that the world holds right now. And I just salute my colleagues in the industry, because it's expensive and it's a scary thing for directors like me to do, but you can't stop. You have to go forward, and you have to bring those good people in to keep your strategies going strong.
Brilliant. Wow. So it's not slowing up anytime soon by the sounds of it.
No.
Well, we've covered so much, Suzanne. It's been absolutely fantastic chatting, but sadly we do need to bring the conversation to an end. I'm sure you've got to get the final boxes packed and on a plane to Amsterdam to go and have a successful Mets. But what we like to do at the very end of our conversation is ask a very important question to our guests. And that is, if you were to give a piece of advice to somebody considering joining the marine industry, or who has just started their career journey in the marine industry, what would that be?
From my experience, I would just say perseverance, perseverance, perseverance. You know, it's called work because it's not play. You have to realize there's going to be a lot of rocky places in the road, and you have to embrace those. And that's, at this ripe old age, that's what I've learned being in the marine industry, is that it's going to change every single day. And you have to be able to have that flexibility and that perseverance to get you over the rocky places. And if you have a dream to be in this industry, if you have a dream to open your own company, if you have a dream to work your way up through a company, I would just say, stay focused. You know, give it all your energy and all your professional drive, and have perseverance. And I think in the end, that's probably the people that survive the best.
Brilliant. Suzanne, thank you so much for a really, really inspiring conversation, actually. It's been wonderful hearing about your journey and the company, and just to hear how passionate you are about all the elements that you're involved in. I wish you all the best of luck with METS and the Women in the Marine Industry event, and of course the adventures into the US market. And I really look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Will you be at METS, James?
I will be.
Oh, I'll see you there.
We can speak in 3D.
Okay.
Thanks, Suzanne.